Cool. Well, greetings, friends, and welcome to season 2 of Free Range Thinking. And we're here again in our cozy recording caves, ready to dive into some interesting topics and rabbit holes. I'm Sharon Lee.
And I'm Alex Carl, who is still loading his intro. we deliver we deliver a delicious buffet of neurodivergent topics, discussions, questions, explorations around the subject of living as a neurodivergent human, and from the window of our food truck podcast. We love exploring and celebrating how people like us can not only thrive in today's world but prosper.
Because the world desperately needs neurodivergent humans to bring real transformation and evolution to mankind. Because we are the keys to the shitstorm of a one-size-fits-all world. And that is no joke.
That is no joke. And I think Sharon has already packed up her things for the big trip.
It should be an interesting conversation next week for sure. And it's interesting because, doing this podcast with the theme, the focus of neurodivergence, it's and coming out of the end of the pandemic and finding more about myself and, and you finding out stuff about yourself, it's like getting back into real life, and we're experiencing things that we've done in the past, but we're looking at it with a whole new light, with new eyes and a new perspective. Because this will be the first sort of messe, salon, convention in English, that I've been to in a long time. It feels like forever. So, it's like a lot of people, a lot of noise. And so they're thinking about, okay, like what do I do? Because I've always done the self-care thing, but I wasn't conscious that I was doing it. And so we went ahead and, of course, found a place very, very close to the venue, so that if we needed to get away or, go take a nap, we could, because that's super important, instead of having to cross town. So, to get back to your little, cave of safety. And so it's that'll be an interesting thing. I mean, it's an NFT, okay, just to let people know, it's this whole thing about NFT and Web3, but it's mostly about it's just NFT, but of course Web3 people are going to be there. So it's going to be really interesting, and people from all over the world are coming to this, and I think it's the kickoff of the NFT event tour, sort of, so to speak. It's global, so I think this is the first one of the season. And but they've got people that I nothing. I'm a newbie at this. I know nothing, and I know later on I'll be like, oh my God, these people were speaking at this thing. Oh my God, they're like total rock stars and amazing. It's because I don't know any of the people, but they have a huge speaker list. And my guess is that there's a very, very, high number of neurodivergent humans at this thing, because, neurodivergent humans tend to be very, very creative. And so this one is about creativity and art and, all of that. And so very entrepreneurial, very techie, so I know that so I'm just really looking forward to getting into just the greatest, strangest conversations ever. I have no expectations on it other than to go in there as a human sponge and and see who I can connect with and what I can learn. Because like I said, I know nothing. I want to know about the
excited what you are going to
aspects.
Sorry? Yeah. We have a little delay, so sometimes we might talk into each other. That's not because we try to be very rude to each other today, but it's a little laggy connection. Yeah. Did you prepare for the event? Did you prepare yourself or your mind?
Did I prepare for it? Well, I'm always prepared like that, mind-wise. I'm always doing, crazy shit that's way outside my range. And for example, I noticed when we were signing up and on the website it says, oh, if you want to register to host a side event, here's where you sign up for that. And I was like, huh. And I was looking at all the side events and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go to that one. I wouldn't want to go to that one. That one doesn't appeal to me. That one doesn't appeal. I bet it's really loud there. I was like, all of the ones I was looking at, and I thought, they don't really have the kind of thing that I would want to go to. And then I was like, well, then why not register for one? So I did. And, and I was thinking, okay, we're going to get some people. And it's like, oh my God, Alex, there's like 125 people applied to come to our thing.
No
and I
way.
Have to choose. I have to choose. Now, granted, not everybody's going to come to this thing, right? There's no way. And I weeded out because it was, and the list that I put on there, I mean, the title of it was brunch. So it's not even a nighttime thing. It's like a breakfast brunch thing the day after. So I know people, just thinking about it, I know people are going to want to talk about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And during the time that most of the events are, it's like during the event or in the evenings when everybody's totally cooked. Like, who would want to do that? That's like burnout, invitation to burnout. So I
extroverted
thought,
people.
I'd rather do one on the day after. That's what I would want. So this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, in a place where you could actually talk to people, and so that's what we're doing. But it's the title of it was, NFTs and web brunch for NFT and Web3 creatives, women. Because I wanted to be specific about that because there's all this other stuff and it's very bro techy in all these things. There's very male dominated. And so I thought, no, I want to make a space where, it's not exclusive. Men can come, but now I don't know, but because so many people, and it's like a guy would have to be like super cool, but how would I know if he was cool, if he was just going to come in and be all ego-ish? I don't know these people. Do you know what I mean? So it makes the decision making of who to take. There's one that I think I definitely want this pair, and I don't know if they're a couple or if they just work together, but the woman I'm very interested in because she's a filmmaker out of Berlin. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I noticed in the invitation, it's got the same information as the guy that was registered right after her. And so okay, they're there together. And so, yeah, I'm not going to go, you can come, but your partner can't, this kind of thing. But it's hard decision making. Yeah. So I got that many and the place that Jen found, it's like, we can have 12 people. How am I supposed to make those decisions for 12 people? I said, we got to call the restaurant and see if we can, get 20 to 30 people, maybe, it's like, So I don't know, but it's very exciting, but that's ballsy as hell, not knowing anybody. So I told Saskia, it's like, okay, what we're going to do is, we're curators.
If the weather is fine,
we're hosts. And so what we do is we bring together. Mm-hmm.
If the weather is fine, you could do a picnic.
That is what it would take to put that together. And I would have to lay out money to do that. And I can't do that right now. I'm not set up to do that. And you can't say to people, bring your own stuff. That's way too involved. Way too involved. Okay. And if people are traveling, I wouldn't go to that. Put it that way. Mm-hmm. I would not go to that.
Okay.
Because it would require me having to go get stuff and bring it and. Okay. It's like, the thing is to make it simple. Mm-hmm. And not more complicated. But if it's people who lived in Paris and who are always there and it was a Paris group, and I would say so, But again, I have to give information now, and the weather is like, I'm not quite sure what the weather is.
Yeah.
So, but so this is kind of what I do. I do stuff on the fly like that, and it's exciting. So in preparation right now, I was supposed to be doing some other stuff, but I have to deal with this brunch invitation thing. So that when we get off of our recording, that's what I'm going to have to finish up. Yeah. But I've got I'm like uploading and minting the NFTs and putting more designs on for the t-shirts. I'm working on a draft for the retreats because I would like to do a retreat for creative techie women this summer. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. So I got some stuff to do. So my suitcase packing, no, I haven't done that yet. That'll be done Thursday night, fairly late, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But it's very exciting. And I know I'm talking a lot right now. Just let me get this out of my system because I'm just like, it's just like, wow. But just the other day, I came across an app, and I sent you the information, but I was like, oh, I'm not telling you about it. We'll talk about it on the podcast, and it's called Soundprint. And so I will send you the information about this, but it's a fairly new thing, and they're only starting. They're not really doesn't look like really much in Europe yet. They definitely don't have any reviews in Paris. And so I was like, oh, and so, I see another opportunity. So I signed up to be an ambassador for them.
Oh, that looks interesting.
I said, oh, okay, I could talk about this on the podcast.
Yes.
Because it's what this thing does is it's like a sound check, and you can hold it up and have it record the decibels. And so it takes the decibels of a place that you're in. And the person that came up with it is a guy who's hard of hearing. And so he came up with this thing because he kept saying, God, where's a quiet place where you can go and talk? And so many restaurants and cafes and venues are really, really loud. And for people who have a hearing difficulty or sound sensitivities or autism or something, it's like, where do you go? And so this guy started doing this app, and then he had a list. Actually, he started a list of restaurants and things, and all his friends started going, hey, can you send me your list? And it grew into what it is now. So they're trying to get some liftoff. I think it's phenomenal because I'm always looking for places. So I wrote a letter. I said, "Oh, I'd like to be an ambassador, and I'm going to go for this event." And so so I'll do I'll record some decibel things in the places that we're going to be, and because it's kind of like TripAdvisor for people with hearing challenges or sound or sound sensitivities. I think it's phenomenal. Yeah.
That is. I just looked at the website, and that is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I after we finish recording, I will immediately check if Bielefeld has already some quiet places in there. Otherwise, I'm going to go and scout a little bit, because that is really helpful.
There's no. I guarantee they don't have anything in there for Bielefeld. Okay, if they don't have Paris, they don't have Bielefeld, honey.
No.
But they're expanding. They're starting to expand, obviously, from the United States, and so it's very, very new. And so I'm like, oh, that's exciting. So we could put stuff on the map, and So what you should do is actually also write them a thing and apply to be an ambassador.
Yes.
And say, that, oh yeah, you are the partner, podcast partner of Sharon Lee, yada yada yada, and you're in Germany.
Really cool.
So because I'm just without even using it, I'm like, yes, I'm an advocate.
Yeah, I mean, it's so
it could even like marginally work, and I will love this thing because it's what I've needed. It's the app that I've needed desperately, and I'm just like so grateful that somebody did this. So thank you, Soundprint.
And it's interesting how the one need of one person with hearing problems helps totally different groups. Because I think they think about that. I remembered, and I will write him a mail after we finished as well. When you talked about not being in a big convention for a long time, I remembered Sascha Lobo. Sascha Lobo is some kind of a social media celebrity and a very, very smart guy. He's I think he would introduce himself in English as well as the internet explainer. Because every time when a talk show in German television needs somebody who is visually really it's hard to describe. Since 15 years or so, he always has a red mohawk and a really distinguishable mustache. So he's distinguishable. You can already, if the camera turns on Sascha, it's totally clear. Okay.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about. Saskia wants to be the female version of him.
Then she has to start with a mohawk. No, it's
that. I'll see what I can do.
He wrote his diploma thesis about becoming your own personal brand. And having a distinguishable haircut is one part of it. He would also describe himself, he would also describe himself or his function as the guy from the internet with the haircut, because everybody knows then who he's talking about. And I remember Republika 2008 or 2009, I guess. He was sitting there in a really noisy room, and he has ADHD, and he talked about that different times. But he's also really kind of introvertish, and he was sitting there with his headphones, with his in-ear headphones in. Back in the day, it were the Apple corded ones, so you can clearly see the cords going down from his ears, and he was concentrating on his phone. And two people were like, "Oh, this is Sascha Lobo," and they started waving in front of his face, and I thought, "Oh no, how rude could one be?" He was really friendly. He answered their questions. I don't know if he gave them an autograph or so. But half an hour later, he twittered something like, "Okay, sitting around with headphones in your ears means not, hey, come and wave your hand in front of my face because I want to concentrate. It means go away. Let me alone."
Yeah.
But I would definitely ask. Him if he would like to be a guest on the podcast.
Oh my gosh!
Since he is a father now, I think the second child is born already as well. So
that would be awesome.
I think he could talk a little bit about that as well.
No, it's very exciting. And I even thought, like, should I bring these? Because this will be the first time I'll be going to something like this, knowing about the sensitivities that I have now. And so it kind of almost makes me wonder if I will experience it as more sensitive because I know about it and I know it. Do you understand what I'm saying? And or if it's gonna, I don't want to say make me less sensitive, but it's more of a thing where I was like, okay, that's what that is, and so the whole thing is an experiment.
I mean, I'm quite sensitive to sound as well, but only to sound that concerns me. If I know For example, if I'm working on the couch and I really have to concentrate, and then I have to go away, because my girlfriend, for example, she's always thinking out loud. She's always talking to herself, and she's always thinking out loud what she's doing, and I have to listen, because that I can react if she's talking to me. So I'm with a half an ear, I'm always listening to that. So this
happens in our house as well. Lydia does that. And
it's really hard for me to
concentrate. To me, and she's like, "No, I'm talking to myself." And then if she'll say something, and then she'll say it a little bit louder. I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" She's like, "Yes, I'm talking to you." And I'm like, "How would I know? How would I know?"
And but when so I'm on an event or in a cafe or something like that, then it's not that big of a problem to me, because normally those sounds don't concern me. Nobody's talking to me then, so then I'm quite good at ignoring things. If you would ask my girlfriend, she would say I'm good at ignoring everything around me, but it's just on the outside, not on the inside. But I'm really good at ignoring things.
Yeah, on the outside, like going and working in a cafe, pretty much, except visually, things will. So I have to be, I want to say, chemically balanced, and then I'm fine. Yeah. Like I can't eat a bunch of gluten stuff and then expect myself to focus. It's my energy level is off. But it's what's difficult is being in a place where it's very echoey, and it's loud, in a way that it's yeah, I'm not even like finished figuring all this stuff out, to be honest with you. Because we're here in the house, and I'm this is where I spend the most of the time, in being online and coaching and facilitating stuff online. So it doesn't really affect what I do professionally. But it's like when we go out and we're in a group, like we met at this pub place for this French business women in the region. It was impossible. I couldn't hear shit. It was so horrible the whole night. Saskia was with me, and I just kept saying, what did she say her name was? And Saskia was like, I have no idea. Neither one of us could hear anything in there. That was, the acoustics were terrible. There was music playing, the people talking, and the rest in the bigger part of the room, and it was.
I hate those situations, especially because I start talking so loud, because I think, okay, I have to be really loud, so that the other person or persons don't have the same difficulty understanding than I think it is to be understood there, because it's so loud that maybe some people think I'm a maniac because I'm yelling as hell. And
it was a nice evening, except for that shouty man.
Yeah. and on the other hand, I have a sore throat for like 2 days after that, because it's really exhausting on my voice.
Yeah.
And on my ears. And I remember someday, I think it was my dad. I think my dad, he wanted to invite us to a place. He thought he liked it from the outside. He found it really neat. And he said, here, I would invite you and some other people to my birthday for a brunch to this Spanish themed cafe. And I said, okay, because I was there for 2 times. One time on the lower floor, and one time on the upper floor. And I said, okay, if you don't want to talk to anyone on your birthday, then it's a really good venue. And he said, why? I said, because it's the fucking loudest place in the whole town. There's this echoey, there's reverb in every corner. The music is always so loud. It's much too large of a room. I think we went there anyway. I think he asked for the most quiet table. And that was okay-ish there because they know the problem, so they reserved him a spot that was in a niche or in the corner of the room, and then it was bearable, but it was still loud as hell. I would never go there voluntarily.
I'm curious now. You'll have to go back and get it on the sound point.
Yes.
Yeah. And because they have the different ranges.
maybe on the next day, I'm in the newspaper because there was a strange guy visiting 20 different bars, staying for 5 minutes, holding his iPhone with a decibel meter in the air.
You're casing the point that you're a terrorist. A sound terrorist.
A sound terrorist.
The silent terrorist. No, I shouldn't joke about these things, but
yeah, but knowing places or having an app where you can look. Okay, I really want to go somewhere quiet. That's a really, really cool idea. And funny thing, I thought just a week ago or so, I thought about going to the library again to work there, which I did sometimes before the pandemic. Didn't do it since then, so that's a nice environment because other people are working there, and normally it is.
Yeah, I used to
unfortunately,
like
we don't.
Library in Karlsruhe.
We don't have I haven't found yet a really old and antique Harry Potterish library. That would be something.
Oh my God, they would have to bomb me out of there if we had one like that around here. I would be there all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. Yeah. My favorite cafe is that one that's it's like right at a marina, and it's Villa Margaret, and I definitely will there. I would have to go to these places and say, well, yes, I have to go here and drink coffee, or I have to go here because I have to get the sound thing because now I'm an ambassador.
I'm on a mission here.
Excuse.
Yeah.
But this place, I'm on a mission, and this place is amazing. The ambiance of it is just like the best thing on your senses ever, except for the fact that on like weekends when it's nice weather, they have their garden open. So they have a lot of tables and chairs outside, so they'll play the music louder. So it's almost impossible to sit inside.
Yeah.
And that bums me out because there's like nobody inside because the weather's perfect. And I would rather like sit in there because all the windows and doors are open. So it's kind of has this inside outside feeling to it, but they've got the music on up too loud for me. But I should go and wear the earphones is what I should do. But it's just this beautiful, sensory wise, it's just the most beautiful and most like kind of stimulating place to sit and work. I just love it. It's like my favorite place to work.
What I always dreamed of was working in, and especially because of the sound, and I realized that when I visited my cousin's studio that he built like 1 year ago or so. I would love to work in a cinema because I love the sound in a cinema when nothing is running.
Oh.
When it's just quiet, because it's so quiet in there. And when I visit my cousin for the first time, after he soundproofed his studio for like, I don't know, 5,000-6,000 euros, only for the soundproofing, you are in, I mean, the room is not that big. It's like 14 square meters or so, maybe 15 square meters. But when you close the door, you don't hear anything. You don't hear yourself.
Okay.
You don't have any reverb when you clap. It's just dead sound wise. That is so soothing for me. That is so great being in that room.
Wow. I don't know if I would like that so much. I mean, brief periods of time, yes, but other than that, it would start to make me maybe feel claustrophobic. I don't know. Huh. Because sometimes when there's like no sound, it feels very closed or something. I don't know. I mean, if you're recording, it would be great. That would be great. But just to hang out and work in there, I don't know.
I like it because I always have the control about making noise if I want to, like humming yourself or like singing. When people are afraid to go in the cellar, then they start singing. Okay, you can do that for yourself if you want any sound or some distraction. Or you
I was getting ready to get 12-year-old boy crude and go, yeah, burping and farting doesn't count. Or maybe it does. I don't know.
It depends who is in there with you.
Depends on your taste in music.
Yeah, but can you stand to work, for example, with music?
It depends. It depends on what I'm working on. If I'm writing, it's more difficult.
Yeah.
It has to be very low and off to the side. Now, again, it's like in Villa Margaret, in the winter, because they have all the doors and windows shut, and they've got the fireplace and everything, and they have this like kind of jazz, this low level jazz playing, and man alive, I can write in there. My God. So it depends on what it is. Plus it's French. Most of the music is French, so I'm not singing along with it, but now, of course now it's getting to a point where I do know the songs. But it's not the same as like American music. American music is way too distracting if it has lyrics to it. So it's got to be instrumental. And then, but when I'm doing artwork, oh yeah, hell yeah, music is I can totally be in silence as well. I don't know even know if I'm on a deadline and I've got artwork, I can tell you exactly what I listen to. It's Rolling Stones and Lenny Kravitz. It's very specific. Very specific. There's something about it that it's
I can't when I'm for artwork or everything, I don't have to concentrate on words. That can work, but what I can't listen to is to German music, because then I listen. I mean, not German music.
No, I'm sorry, that was rude.
Those even those little bits of German music that are good. It's really hard for me because then I listen to the lyrics.
That's what I mean.
When I listen to English music, it depends. Normally, when I do that, then I listen to music that I know inside out, so that I don't have to listen because I know the song. But everything in between is really, 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 really hard. Listening to French or Spanish or whatever language I don't know can work sometimes, but I mean, I always think,
I do love good Spanish music. The Latin music I love that. I can work to that. I know a little bit of the word. I can get the gist of what they're singing about. I know enough Spanish with that, but it doesn't annoy me so much. And that's It's very good energy wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was in Mountain View in 2011. I was for 2.5 or 3 weeks in Silicon Valley and did several interviews there. And one evening I was in the Red Rock Cafe, what is a quite famous cafe and restaurant in Mountain View. Because they had free Wi-Fi there, and back then you needed free Wi-Fi. Even though in Mountain View, most of the town had back then already this free Wi-Fi by Google, which you could use as well, but sitting in a car was not that pleasant. So I went to the Red Rock Coffee, and I prepared the appointments and interviews for the next day. And I was sitting there for half an hour or so, and then suddenly a band started to prepping the stage and organizing their stuff there, like 1.5 meters away from my table. I was so like, I have to do this. I have to finish this. It was really concentrated typing, and then they started playing, and I was like sitting in the first row. And working and trying to ignore the band playing, and you are gone.
So welcome back, people. That was a cut in I know you're going to edit this, so no worries. But we were having this great discussion about, I really like this discussion about places and sounds and like where it's comfortable, not just comfortable to work, but where it's enjoyable to work. And I love the places that we were listing, and there's one I'd like to add to that list. I would love to work. Every time I'm in them, I'm like, oh, I wish I could hang out in here and work, which is empty churches, old empty churches.
But only when you can bring your own stool, your own chair.
It's not super. Yeah, the benches are not super comfortable. Although you could stretch out on them, then you're fine because you're the only one in there if they're empty, right? And
and the desk up front is really big.
The big desk up front, right? And but there's something about, and of course Europe is just like they're just everywhere. All these phenomenal old little ancient churches, and of course the United States isn't that old, so it's like we don't really have things like that. And but I'm just crazy about them. I'm nuts about them. It's like all sensory wise, the way they smell, how it sounds in there. But again, while they're empty, and I just wish I could stay and work in them. Now I have done a thing where I'll take a book and I'll sit and read, and they probably think, "Oh, look at her, worshiping and reading her Bible." The heathen that I am on multiple levels. But I just, there's architecturally, it's just, they're the greatest. I just can't get enough. Yeah. And it would be great if somebody would like, I would say open a cafe in one, but as soon as they did that, then if you had a lot of people in there because the ceilings are so high, it would probably be horrible.
We do have a church here that is converted into a restaurant and cafe. It's okay. I could imagine work in there. Yes, haven't tried it, but it's always there are always people in there, of course, when it's opened.
And I like being outside. I like working outside. And
depends on the bug situation.
True. Yeah, but outside here on the terrace, in I'm going to say nice weather, kind of cooler weather, not in the full sun, because in the full sun it's like an oven because of the reflective and the stones on the side of our house. We live in a stone house, and it's a stone terrace. And so, I mean, it's like you might as well be sitting in an oven. And so we work out there early, and as soon as the sun comes up, then we either move inside or go out underneath these two trees in the middle of the yard and work out there. Then we have to use our phone Wi-Fi, but it's if we need the internet connection. But it's like underneath the trees is one of the best places to work. It's like the creativity level is, very high out there. At least for me.
I can believe that. I mean, our neighbor, he builds this little tiny house-like buildings, which are a mixture of a tiny house and a shed. But I always thought about asking him if I could sit in there to work concentrated, because you are quite. It's like being outside, but not really being outside. But he smokes so much, I can't bear to be in there.
Wow. Oh wow! Yeah, that would be hard. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, but it's having such a small place that's outside in nature and be in there for to work. That is it's a nice imagination, at least. But I haven't tried it yet.
And of course, the optimal place would be a treehouse
or a castle.
Yes.
No,
why, yes.
No kidding. I always had your voice in my head when we were visiting Schloss Neuschwanstein.
Oh yeah.
And in almost every room, I was imagining myself sitting there and working there and just finding a power outlet, sit down and work in those amazing spaces.
I know.
I think I could even bear all the tourists walking past me. It would be okay. I would take that.
Yeah, I totally get that. I would be there. I thought about like what a great thing. These are the clues. Okay, these are the clues that that thing of like you might be neurodivergent if that whole. So it's like you might be neurodivergent if, as a kid or like all throughout your life, you fantasized about living in a monastery. And because of the silence and the and the sensory well, for me it's sensory richness. And a lot of people would think, oh, there's not enough input, but for me it's like I think it's the Japanese floral design, the ikebana. I believe that's the word that I'm looking for. It's just very, very simple, or one of something. And so the more it's simplified, almost the richer it is, the experience is. And so I thought, plus my love for like old stone buildings. The thing about all, praying and and not the best food on the planet, type of thing that I wouldn't have been so crazy about. But if it was just the solitude, that seemed very attractive to me, the silence and the solitude, I would think about it a lot over my life. It's like, wow, aside from, the very sparse meals and the praying and the weird clothing, I could have been a nun. It's just, so it's funny to me now. It's like, okay, that says a lot about
even
my typical flavor of neurodivergence.
I've thought about that as well several times, because a friend of mine did his not his public service, not the military service. He did public service in a monastery, in the bakery of a monastery. And he told me that you can go there for holiday. You can take part in the praying, but you don't have to. But you have to help with the work in the monastery, like in the garden, in the bakery, cleaning floors, whatever
so into that.
comes up there. But then you can go there for a week or two and have this kind of solitude there, which still, even as an atheist, still is really appealing to me. To try that out.
And we're on the same page with that.
It is more appealing to me, like silent retreats or stuff like that. Interestingly, because that sounds artificial to me, and I just think, okay, in this hundreds of years old monastery, those people who are living there, they have hundreds of years of experience with solitude, and that's what I'm interested in.
Exactly. I'm right there with you. And you can feel it. You can feel it. There's a history of solitude in it that I feel like I could feel. There's an energy. It might be full of shit, but there's a feeling about it. The living with intent or something. There's a lot to it that it really appeals to me.
It reminds me back when I was traveling a lot, my most productive work that I got done was on planes, in trains, or in lounges, because it's such a parallel universe. You realize that there are people around you, and that there's something that you are living, but nobody annoys you, or everybody goes around his or her business, but you are out. It's like stepping completely out of your daily life, having the opportunity to concentrate on whatever you want to concentrate on. And that's something that I really miss from. I don't miss much from traveling, but this special form of solitude, with still having people around
you. The anonymity of being anonymous.
Kind of, yeah.
True. It's kind of the thing of being untethered.
And on the other hand, meeting super interesting people still there. I remember one time I flew to Geneva, I guess, Geneva or Zurich, and it was a really, really small plane, and I was quite happy that I had a lot of space. And then last minute, a really stylish old guy, it was at least in his 70s, maybe beyond that, entered the plane and went straight up to my place, and I thought, okay, here goes the whole comfort. And he sat next to me, and we said, hi, hello, how are you? And then he put out his work, and I took out my work and started working. And what totally fascinated me to a degree that I had to ask him, because he was studying Excel sheets, but on paper, but in handwriting. So he drew his whatever it was, Excel sheets, and I was like, sorry, can I ask you something? I know it's really inappropriate to look at what you're working on, but it totally fascinates me. What are you doing? And turned out he was the expansion manager for Coca-Cola in Eastern Europe and Russia. and still was doing some consulting work. And we talked a lot about, or I asked him a lot of questions about how he's working on paper, this organized, this neat. I mean, those tables and those Excel sheets that he had hand drawn, they looked really beautiful and looked really, really cool. That was, I wasn't brave enough to ask if I can take a photo of his market data he wrote down.
Or let me give it another spin, because it's curious. It is curious what you're describing. So he's like a lawyer for the mafia. Okay, this is the kind of stuff you never do digitally. You have to have it by hand. And so you had an eyeball on like the accounting sheets of, you know.
He worked for Coca-Cola. That is not that far away from mafia. Voilà.
Yeah.
That were thoughts that went through my head as well. Like, what is he doing there? Why does he have this only on paper? What kind of, I don't know, senior special secret agent on pension is he?
So funny.
Yeah, but you meet really interesting people.
I do a lot of reading. Yeah, I do a lot of reading and studying when I'm traveling like that. Writing, not so much. It's because I'm on like alert of like, okay, am I on time? Am I gonna, with ADD, it's like, okay, I so I have alarms set, but before the alarm, now I can relax because of the alarms that I have on the phone. But before, I would have to just pay attention.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I have to go and sit near the gate so it catches my attention that people are getting up and getting ready to board. I couldn't sit away from it, the loading gate, or where my train was leaving from, because I would miss something if I did that. But now with the alarms, but still, it's almost like I can't, knowing that I have to be interrupted like that. It's hard for me to write, but the reading and the absorbing information is totally fine. So it's interesting what tasks we can do in which places as well. It's like you can write just about anywhere. Your ninja skills of blocking out sensory stuff.
For me, it always depends on, okay, what am I writing? Am I writing something for clients, for example? That's much easier for me outside, not at home, than writing something for myself. Because it's always hard for me writing personal stuff, writing something for own projects. That's harder for me, especially when I have the impression that somebody could see it or look at it. I can't be on the telephone. I absolutely hate to talk on the telephone if somebody else is in the room. Because I draw conclusions that I do that I don't think other people do. But I think other people behave as the same as me. And I can't help to listen to all the conversations around me. So if people, when we are talking and somebody else would be downstairs, for example, but I still can hear somebody talk down there on the telephone, I would listen to that conversation as well. But I am drawing conclusions because I don't hear the other side. So I think when I'm talking on the telephone and somebody else listens to me, which most people wouldn't in the first place, but I would because I can't help it. And then I'm concerned about which conclusions they might draw from the words that I said without the context that the other side on the other side of the phone says. Make sense? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always have to leave the room when I know I'm going to be on the telephone. I have to leave the room, otherwise I can't concentrate.
But I love hearing people's stories about where they work the best. Because I have some friends that have to be in like this hermetically sealed room in order to produce something, which is, that's hard. Because I mean, just life in general. And I'm like, some people, if they have kids, and I go, how do you do that? How do you handle that? So, and this is why a lot of people during the pandemic were just like, they were going crazy almost because they couldn't get away, and get the quiet and the solitude, to produce the stuff they wanted to produce.
I just remember two situations where I worked best, both in the same room. Funny, but first was when I put my office in the room that is now the kids' room. And when I transformed it into my office 8 years ago or so, or 9 years ago, after renovating it, it was totally empty. I put my old desk in there, and I put my computer on it. Nothing else. The room was completely empty. And I'm still dreaming of a room that is completely empty, just a desk and a chair and a window to look outside, so that I can choose. Do I look at the wall without having a door in my back? Because I can't work when I have a door in my back. Or can I turn around and look outside if I want to see something lively living outside? That was the first time. And the second time was last year when I recovered from COVID, but still was positive. And I took a little camping table and a camping chair and used that as a desk in the same room, which is now the kids' room. But I put the camping desk, which was 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter, really, really tiny. You just could put the laptop on it, a keyboard, and maybe a piece of paper. But the room, because it wasn't my room and it wasn't my stuff, so the room felt empty for me. I could concentrate and could look outside the window, and the impression was that the complete room is empty because it wasn't my stuff around me.
How long did you have it as an office before the kid arrived?
2-3 years or so, I think. But
nice.
In the following weeks, after the room was empty, I started to put all the other things in there. So like shelves and little cupboards and organization things and stuff like that. So then it wasn't empty anymore. It was okay as well, but I really often remember working in this empty room and how productive it felt and how unintimidating and not cluttered. And I mean, I like chaos as well. It's okay for me to have a totally chaotic desk because I'm still working on finding out why that is. I have several theories. Yeah. One is the ADHD, and I think we talked in the episode with Matthew about that. I have to keep things inside, so I have to put things that I have to do, that I want to work on, that I want to think about. I always have to put them somewhere where I can see them, so that they remember me. I have to do that.
Yeah.
So it's always looking a little bit chaotic around me. For other people, for me, it's totally clear what is for and why it's lying there. But for other people, it looks really messy. I think what you often said, that we are really good in chaotic situations with ADHD is another point, because my threshold for what I feel as chaotic is much higher as for a neuronormative person, I think, or neurotypical person. I think because
see, I could work in. Yeah, go ahead.
Because the level of chaos that I need, that it starts to annoy me, or that I can't think clear anymore, or so, is much higher as for other people, I guess.
Because it's interesting what you're saying, because I could go into somebody else's house. I'm okay with, like, if it's chaotic and, not noise wise or whatever, and kind of, sort of stuff everywhere. But if it's, I could deal with that on somebody else's house, but in mine, my stuff has to be organized, because I can't, if I'm concentrating and my stuff is not organized, then I'll be like, it distracts me. So I think, I have to organize that. That can be organized better. So I kind of problem solve with the organization of stuff.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that other people would see that as organized as well? Would they say, "Oh, that is completely organized"?
Oh yeah.
Other people, okay.
Oh yeah. When people come into my space, they're like, "Wow, your stuff is really organized."
Okay.
And they would go into, like, the studio when I had the massive studio in the Black Forest. They were like, "Wow, I can't believe the amount of stuff you have in here and how organized it is." Everybody would say that. And it's
Sounds
like, I know where everything is now. If I'm on a project or working on something, it can look a little bit chaotic.
Do you have
then
photos?
I have to put it.
Do you have photos from that studio?
Yeah.
Would you send me some? We don't have to publish them, but would you send me some? I really would like to see it. I just had the image of the Casey Neistat studio.
Not quite the same. And we have motorbikes in it. We had motorbikes in the garage.
Cool.
It was garage/studio. Yeah. And but it was just, it was like the best. It was the best. I just loved it. We had a big bouillon oven with it was 8 tubes. That thing would pump, and it was a big studio, so that it was like, but you get that thing fired up, and within, like, 20 minutes, it's like bikini weather in the studio, whereas before it was like, sub-zero. But I mean, of course, there we had a lot of firewood, so it was, and the place next door, it was a Zimmerei, a building place. So I got, they had big bins where they had cast off wood, and so I would have back the dumpster up, and I would fill, areas with the, cut up pallets and things like that. So I had a constant supply of.
And you didn't have to
food
chop
for the bouillon, because. No. I did have to saw some of the pieces to fit them in there, and but generally speaking, it was, some of the pieces were like, chunks of this, amazing wood. I called it like filet mignon, so I would save those for after I had really nice a bed of coals, and then I would throw those in there and shut the whole thing down. It would just cruise on the heat. It was great. No, I really liked it, and good times.
That sounds
But it's
cool.
nice having a studio of that size, and the upkeep that goes with that, of course, of having a property with something of that size on it. So there's pluses and minuses. It's not like having a small place, for sure. And I don't necessarily know that I would do that again just for me, because of the upkeep factor of it. But I do admit it was great, because if I was working on something, I could throw a chain over, the rafters and haul something up, and, so I could work on bigger stuff. And it was pretty cool.
Oh, I really would like to see it.
What a great place to work. I'm sure the ceilings are high, but being in there alone, and I was alone, the 10 years we were there, I was alone the majority of the time, because Lydia was off on contracts. And So, I could work. Oh, and what was great, because usually, as you know, in Germany, they have the sound ordinance, but because the place where we were, there was where the stream, and there was like a trout stream that came through. It was small, but there was like a little pondish kind of thing, but of course man-made. And because there were Sägemehl sawmills up and down this particular street, and there was no longer a sawmill there, but there was where the water would fall where the wheel was, one of the wheels.
Yeah.
And so that ran like right next to the house on one side, and it went underneath the pavement. But it would the water would just with force come down into that thing. So there was constantly that sound with the water, the waterfall at our house.
There's no better sound.
Anything. I could cut metal. In the middle of the night on a Sunday, and nobody would hear.
Yeah.
Nobody. Then again, and I was very, very careful, because if I was working with something, I was very, very careful with power tools, because if something happened,
nobody would hear
me. Yeah. Nobody would hear me. If I was going up on a ladder or something, I was very, 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 very careful, because if I fell and nobody would hear me, I would go, a week or something, 2 weeks. And because when Lydia was really far away on a contract, she would come back every 2 weeks, for 4 or 5 days. And during the duration of a contract, so yeah, I was alone, and it's like there's which is fine for me. I was totally in my element, here at my own private monastery.
Sounds like that.
Praying to the art gods. Yes, I was. And
isn't the studio?
And, people would come out and they'd be like, "How do you do this? How do you live like this?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I'm like, going, this would be horrible. I'm like, "Really?" I was like, "No, this is great." And again, one of these things, signs that you might be introverted.
Yeah, maybe.
Signs that you might be introverted are, and yeah, no, it was like the greatest thing ever. And I produced a lot of stuff during that time, a lot of stuff. But I was doing the art markets, and a lot of writing, it was very, very productive,
Yeah, I think places or locations can make you really, really productive. Just being there and seeing something specific, hearing, just imagining this waterfall sound, just give me chills, and one of the best sounds I could imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to be in water.
Relentless.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so relentless that at one point, right when we moved in, I thought, is this going to become annoying? But after very quickly, you don't even hear it really.
No,
anymore.
You don't hear it anymore. Yeah.
You just don't hear it. And then behind the house, there's a little tiny little stream that in the summertime it was, if you don't clean it, if you let the weeds grow up in it, and we would get cress, the watercress in it. And so I was like weeding everything out except the watercress. So I had a watercress factory behind the house, and so that made little sounds. So between the waterfall and that one, it was just, it was just like the greatest. But people would come out there and they would be like, "My God," during like, spring, summer, and fall, but late spring, I have to say late spring, because it was in a valley. So it was very, very dark. So it seemed like spring came late for us. And it was very dark in the winter, long, dark winter. But it was quite magical. And people would come out and they were just like, "Oh my God, this place is unreal." But the water factor, and it was like kind of like it appealed to all 5 of your senses. And I would notice people like getting high off of the place. Yeah, it was really an interesting place because of the water, the forest, everything. Right out the back door, it just went up a hill, and then the forest was right there, just right there. We were right there. we're in it, and on both sides, all around. When we only had on that street, we had a few neighbors here and there. It wasn't a neighborhood; it was a road in the forest.
Yeah, sounds like the place here where we are. I mean, that's what you were describing were the feelings that I had when we in 2008 or so, 2008, I think, when we come to this place for the first time in late summer, and it just looked so beautiful. I mean, even the 1 kilometer long little road leading to the farm here was already pretty beautiful. But then coming on the property, it was like, whoa, okay, we don't even need to see the apartment because living here is already enough. And it was really cool that worked out. And it's still in the winter. It's a little bit tristesse, of course.
Yeah.
The city's a bit more colorful then, but for me it's okay. I like that. Now I'm looking forward to spring again when everything gets green and colorful. And I already feel how productivity comes back now after the winter. I'm feeling really productive when the transition from autumn to winter comes. That's a really productive time for me. And then January it plummets.
Yeah.
And now it's going back up again.
I'm just looking up I put your address in the map thing to see where you are. You're in the country. That's pretty cool.
You on Google Maps also you can't even really see the road that's leading up here because it's hidden underneath the trees, and we have several ponds.
I'm going to type so you can look at this. The name of our street in the forest was Holzbachtalstraße.
That's nice.
Okay, look that one up. And sometimes you can't even see the house because of the trees. I love Google Maps. My God, this is such a cool thing to be. This is such a cool thing to be alive during these times, and especially the age where it was like none of this stuff existed. Because if you're younger, you take it for granted.
Yeah.
And you don't understand really how amazing this is for those of us who did, we didn't grow up with this stuff. And it's just like, holy cow, this shit's like magic.
Yeah.
It's so close to magic,
It's like,
wow, I see yours. Yours is like you're really in the country.
Oh, yes.
You're really out there. Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And you got water near you.
Yeah. There are some ponds and you have to go to the ponds, then you hear the gushing noise of the water as well, because there's. But still, if you're living here, when you're here all the time, then sometimes it's nice to go in the city, for example, because before I moved here, I lived in one of the western part of Bielefeld, which is between the inner city, like the shopping center city, and the university is one of the most favorite quarters where people want to live, because really old nice houses. I mean, all the hippies and alternative people that started living there in the 60s and in the 70s now getting old and grumpy and like, we don't want no people here, we don't want other kids around here, but it's still it still has this really alternative vibe to it. And I lived in an apartment on the ground floor, right on the way to the big place where people are meeting, especially in the summer. There are hundreds of people on this big place. So there was always, I mean, if you wanted to talk, my ex-girlfriend, where I was living back then, she was really extroverted. and you just could open up the window and hang yourself in the window and talk whole night with strangers because they were walking by your window anyway. And it was kind of fun.
That's funny.
And then then it was a total switch from this kind of crowded living situation in one of the vibrating places of Bielefeld out here. So I don't know if I was thinking the other day, I was really thinking about it, if I still could really live in the city or if I'm too intolerant now.
Yeah.
If a lot of things would annoy me now.
Yeah, it's a good question because we moved into Karlsruhe, which is not far from where we were, and decided to rent out the place because we thought, this is there were things that were interesting me more, and I wanted to be closer into the tech university in Karlsruhe because the direction I was going, people weren't going to come out to where we were. And so the thought of like commuting to go into Karlsruhe to do events and things like that, I was like, okay, that's just not going to work for me. Yeah. And plus we thought, okay, it's time for a change. We'd been out there long enough. And so when, but it was like, it was before we moved, and a friends of ours, this will tell you where the need or the craving, because where we were, it was like, 10 minutes away from, a market where we, where we buy everything. And then it's like 15, 20 minutes away from the bigger markets and like Ettlingen and the smaller towns, and 20 minutes away from Karlsruhe, but in the forest. It was like in the middle of the forest. But, so it wasn't far away from like, quote unquote civilization, but it was, it was far enough out there. And because again, people won't come out to visit you because they have to drive home, so if you're going to have a dinner or something, it was generally on the weekend and say, hey, you can stay over because we got lots of room. And we bed them down in the studio. We got a mezzanine that they could, stay on. And so when people came out for the weekend, they generally would stay. And so that was kind of cool. But it's like, there was no running out to the bakery. There wasn't, running out to get a pizza. There's just, none of that. And, no cute little restaurants right next door to us and stuff like that. And so you had to make a plan. It was more like an event thing to go. And so we went cross country skiing with these friends of ours in Austria. And so they left it up to me to find the place where we stay. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I could do that. And I found this place, this cutie little place, but it was literally like on the main street of this tiny little quaint little village. It was just like this, storybook looking thing. And we went in when we got there. Lydia and I were like, oh, look, and the rooms looked out on the tiny little street. And I mean, it wasn't like a raging big village or anything at all, but it was so cute. And Lydia and I were like at the windows and we were like, look, there's a bakery. Look, there's a pizzeria there. Look at that little cafe right there. And it's like, oh, this is great. This is, a little Italian restaurant. And we were all excited over this. And our two friends, they came in the other room and we were like, and Lydia and our eyes are like really big, like, isn't this great? And they were like, there's a street outside the window. There's people outside. We were like, I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, because they lived in Karlsruhe, they wanted solitude. And it didn't even occur to me. They wanted to be in a place where they saw no people, it was barely accessible. And there I was, Lydia and I were just like, oh my God, look, a bakery. We can walk to the bakery right out of I was like, oh. I was like, maybe. And that was kind of, I think, the beginning of like, maybe we need a change. I would call that a clue. The fact that in any place we went on holiday, we would go to Alsace and stay in, and specifically pick little places in little villages that not in a raging big city, but something super cute, but that there were things right near you,
That is
and
the
not that you'd have to
same.
drive to everything to
That
go through
that
to it.
that was
Yeah.
this that was the same when we were in the mountains in Tyrol last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little old, typically Austrian mountain farmhouse right at the main street, and we were both looking at each other and say, we can walk to the supermarket.
Right.
Because here, as I said, from here, our let's say our social life, since we are living here, our social life is really, let's say, overviewable, because you always have to drive from here to somewhere. I mean, we both don't drink alcohol anymore, so that's another reason. So why should we drive anywhere to sit somewhere where it's loud and where the water costs like €3 when we can have it at home or at somebody else's place? And yeah, from here where we live now, there's nothing where you can walk to that is nice, or yeah, there is nothing. So, but it doesn't bother us.
I hear you. But we're like on the, so I had like almost 15 years of being in the forest, because we were there for a number of years before we bought the place. So we knew what we were getting into. We knew it was a lot of work. And then we were there for longer after we bought it. So we were there for a good chunk of time. And so then we decided, it's like, okay, I think we've had our fill of this forest living. And so now I'm totally fine. Now, where we are now, it's in a farm area, and we can walk. It's a long walk, you better take the bike, but we're not that far from, the market and the bakery. And so it's enough. It's just enough. We're in the right place right now, because it's total nature out here. And there's just a couple houses on our little street. Other than that, it's farmland. And so it's great. So I was saying, I wonder how long we're going to be living here till this starts to wear off. But I can't imagine, because it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
It's the best of both worlds. Because it is quiet. It is very quiet. Yeah. Cool. And not far away from stuff. And not far away from the sea, which is like phenomenal. From being
that's something I really that is a dream as well, to maybe someday live somewhere where you can just drive half an hour or so to arrive at the sea. That would be really cool. My uncle did that. He married a woman that is originally from from a little town, like 15 or 20 minutes from the Northern Sea. So when they both quit their jobs, or got their pension, they bought a house up there and moved up there. And so now they just have 20 minutes drive to get to the sea. That's something I really would like. And I would be comfortable with, because I mean, if climate change hits really hard and you are 20 minutes away from the sea, then you have enough time, if the shit hits the fan, I think, to get away.
Right. I mean, that's worth thinking about in terms of investing in property for the future generations. But in our lifetime, I don't think that's going to be a big issue. But I worry about we don't have kids, but we have nieces and nephews and things, and my cousins with their kids and stuff. So it's and they live in Florida. That's one of the worst ones. My cousin and her family they live in Florida, which is I think it's one of the one of the places high on the list of being in danger.
Yes.
But it's still flat, so flat, the whole thing. There's not a hill over there. Yeah. Now here is nice because we're only like 15 minutes away from the sea, but not close enough to be in the tourist areas.
Yeah.
In the summer, so it's like the perfect place.
Yeah, the best of both worlds.
But like I said, and I'll use this chance and I'll say it publicly, so everybody has to hold Alex accountable, because he's got the coolest daughter on the planet. Because for the carnival, she was like dressed up as Death. And the stuff he was sending me these messages, and I was just like, oh my God, your daughter. You have to send me your daughter. You have to, like, she has to hang out with me. Like, I want to do a camp, like construct a camp for young girls, like completely around your daughter. So you guys have to bring her out here. You guys go off and do your holiday, and you leave her with me for like a week or two. Yeah.
I just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I had the total meta epiphany, because when she went as Death on Carnival, I mean, her name is Zoe, and Zoe means life in Greek. So life went as Death on Carnival. It was like mind blown.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is so meta. That's so funny.
It was really funny. And last thing, before we wrap this up, I have to send you a really, really old video, but talking about all the cozy places, by Max Josephs, about bookstores. It's about do you know Tim Urban from Wait But Why?
Yes.
Yes, he visits Tim Urban first, and Tim Urban teaches him a bit how to read faster, or why he could read more books, and then Tim Urban sends him. I mean, the video is 6 or 7 years old or 8 years old, so back then they were big, but they are not that big as they are now. And then he sends Max further to Eric Barker from Barking Up the Wrong Tree. And Eric Barker tells him even more about bookstores. And then he travels around Europe and visits all the cool bookstores. Like the Lello in Porto, where J.K. Rowling was living when she started writing Harry Potter. They are taking like entry fees now, because there are 3,000 people a day who want to visit the shop. Yeah. And he visits another one in Maastricht, where I was standing in front of closed doors, because it's one of the, I wanted to visit it as well, but it closed at 5 p.m. I guess. That day that I was there, it's and I thought about it when we half an hour ago we were talking about churches, because it's a bookstore in a church, in an old church.
Okay.
And it looks so cool. He visits one. There's then one guy in Portugal. I don't know why Portugal has this cool bookstores. He asked the guy, okay, I have 1 day more in Portugal. What should I visit to see cool bookstores? And he says, okay, you can go there and you can go there, and there's another one. And suddenly he says, no, you have to go to this town, because it's a town of 62 people, but this little town with 62 people has like 14 bookstores.
Oh wow.
It's a really cool video. It's like half an hour documentation, really cool. Like vlog video.
Oh, I would love it. Yes.
I send it to you. That's really cool.
Yes, please send that. Cool. All right then.
I am pretty excited what you are going to report when you get back.
Oh yeah.
What do you think? When could we?
It's going to be at the Grand Palais, and which is enormous and an architectural treasure in Paris. So I'm really looking forward to being in there for this. And yeah.
When are you going to be back? Well, when are you going to be back?
I'm coming back the night of the 27th, very late. And so I've been telling everybody basically that I'm not back until the 28th or the 29th. I have a couple days blocked on call here or there. But really not much because I know that I'm gonna have to like kind of sit with everything, and I want to write some stuff down and recharge my batteries for sure because it's gonna be
so
it's gonna be a lot.
Should we record a little interlude episode as well that we can play then on the on the first week of March?
Let's do that because that'll be really fresh. So it'll be great because that getting the feeling off of it. Yeah.
So you just witnessed our little housekeeping. I'm not going to cut that out because if you listened until now, you can listen to it as well. Yeah. Okie dokie.
This is how we do it,
Yeah.
Cool. Then, thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you for listening.
We'll see you next week.
Or hear you next week.
Yay.
Until
I'll
then.
be sending you messages, Alex. While it's going on, I'll be sending you messages. Like, oh
do that. Please do that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. See you back then.
Have a good one. All right.
You too.
Bye.
And